College football has always had its spotlight moments. The Heisman winners, the playoff walk-offs, the viral clips that get replayed a million times before Monday. But for every legendary finish we remember, there's a regular season masterpiece we forgot. Not because it wasn't elite, not because it didn't matter, but because it didn't come with confetti, trophies, or game of the century hype. Strap up and let's get in the game. But before we get to our list, man, make sure y'all like this video and subscribe to the channel if you want more college sports content. And comment your favorite team in the comment section below, man. Let's get into it. Let's talk about a game that straight up broke the Matrix. Boston College versus NC State. Not exactly the game that had Lee Corso putting on an eagle head, but Andre Williams, he treated it like a playoff game, a Madden sim, and leg day at the gym all rolled into one. That man carried the rock 42 times for 339 yards and 2 touchdowns. That's not just a big game. That's why the other team is still trying numbers. 339. That's the kind of stat line that would make Derrick Henry blush and get thumbs cramp if you tried to replicate it on College Football 25. He was cutting back like he had eyes in the back of his helmet. DBs was getting baptized in real time, stiff arms, broken ankles. Fool, you're not built for this moments. And the wildest part, Boston College didn't really have no generational O-line paving the way. No All-American wall up front, no fancy scheme, just a workhorse back with tree trunk legs and bad intentions. NC State tried everything. Stack the box, bring safeties down, pray. Didn't matter. Williams was running like he just found out they canceled practice tomorrow. Boston College walked away with the win, 38-21. But honestly, it could have been 138-21 and no one would have blinked. That day was all about one dude. Andre even finished the season with over 2,100 yards and got the Heisman nod and then kind of vanished. No ESPN reruns, no On This Day love. He's like the college football version of that one-hit wonder you swore would dominate the charts forever. But that game, that was football in its purest form. No flash, no filters, just violence between the tackles. Andre Williams didn't just run for 339 yards that day. He ran his way into the weight. How do we forget this Hall of Fame? Crazy. Let's rewind to 2007, a time where emo bangs was still cool, Soulja Boy was teaching us to crank that, and Texas Tech was out here dropping video game numbers like it was none. Enter Graham Harrell. If you ever played NCAA football and cranked the sliders up all the way, you gonna love this one. Because on September 22nd, 2007, Harrell didn't just cook Oklahoma State, he deep fried them boys. Listen to this, 646 passing yards. 646 passing yards and 6 touchdowns. No, that's not a typo. That's a man on a mission. A man in a Mike Leach offense where run the ball was a foreign concept. This was air raid on steroids. Harrell dropped back like 70 times and still looked fresher than half the DBs trying to cover his receivers. He was throwing darts, deep shots, fades, curls, dots, you name it. Oklahoma State was basically running wind sprints and calling it defense. It was a Big 12 shootout of the highest order, man. The final score, 49-45, Oklahoma State won. Yeah, even with all those numbers, Graham Harrell still took the L. But here's the wildest part. This wasn't some random fluke game. This was Texas Tech football in that era. Score fast, score often, pray the defense does anything. And yet, when we talk about historic passing performances, this game barely gets a whisper. No highlight reels, no 30 for 39s, not even a remember that time tweet. Harrell played like he was auditioning for a Madden cover, and the world just shrugged. But real ones know, like the ball ones, the ball knowers know. He wasn't just putting up stats. He was out there redefining what a quarterback could do in a pass-happy system. And in a season full of flash, this game deserves its flowers. Alright, picture this. It's 2014 and you're watching Washington State versus Cal. Probably because your team already played and you're too lazy to change the channel. But it's Pac-12 after dark, so all hell's gonna break loose. Connor Halliday, Washington State's QB1, decided he was done with regular football and started playing COD Air Raid Edition. 74 passing attempts, 734 passing yards, 6 touchdowns. Yeah, you read that right, 734. That's not just an FBS record. That's you gotta be kidding me territory. That man threw for more yards in one night than some QBs put up all season. His arm should have filed a workers' comp claim. By the third quarter, his bicep probably like Popeyes. And here's the kicker. Wazoo still lost. Cal won 60-59 in a game that looked like a live Big 12 fever dream. No punts, no defense, just vibes and broken scoreboards. It was like someone had College Football 25 and turned fatigue off. Halliday was dropping dimes like he was playing on a 7-on-7 game. Deep posts, wheel routes, screens that turned into 40-yard gains. If a guy was breathing, he was getting a target. But because Washington State didn't win, the performance kind of faded. No trophy, no playoff implications, just the most passing yards in a single game buried under a sea of forgettable regular season scores. And that's criminal, because Connor Halliday put on a clinic that night, a full-on, shoulder-smoking, stat-padding, defensive coordinator firing clinic. This wasn't just an elite game, it was straight-up record book vandalism. and we should still be talking about it. You want a game where one player turns an entire defense into a highlight reel? Look no further than LaMichael James versus Arizona in 2011. We already knew James was special, right? He was already making people question if he was built in a lab to break ankles and leave defenders in a permanent state of confusion. But this game, this was his whole my Gatorade moment. LaMichael turned Arizona's defense into a personal practice field. He ran for 288 yards and 2 touchdowns on just 26 carries. A casual 11 yards a carry like it was just another Wednesday night. Dude was slicing through gaps like he had a cheat code. Arizona's defenders, clueless. They'd see him running one way and then poof, he's gone. All they had left is to smell their cleats in the dust. And here's the kicker. Arizona wasn't some slouch squad. They had Nick Foles on their center, a legit NFL QB, and a defense that had the talent to at least try and stop the madness. But this wasn't just a game for James. It was a full-on track meet, and he was the guy who had the key to the finish line. Now, when you look back at that season, sure, Oregon was stacked and had plenty of high-profile games. But here's the thing. This performance against Arizona, it should have been talked about a lot more. James was doing things on the field that made you double-check your screen. Every time he touched the ball, it was a new circus act, like watching Usain Bolt race a pack of hungry wolves. And in the end, Oregon smoked Arizona 56-31. But here's the thing. This game doesn't get enough love. In a season full of buzzer beaters and Heisman hype, this performance was just another Saturday. But for LaMichael James, it was a statement. He was faster than you, stronger than you, and when it came down to it, he was the only guy that mattered that night. Everybody knows the legend of Colt Brennan, the guy who redefined what it meant to sling it in college football, setting records, throwing up huge numbers, and changing the game in 06. But what if I told you there's one game that often gets lost in all that hype? One game that deserves more love than it's ever gotten. Let's talk about the Hawaii Bowl versus Arizona State 2006. It wasn't just any game. It was the game that showed the world that Hawaii, yes, Hawaii, could hang with anyone, anywhere. And Colt Brennan, he wasn't just playing quarterback. He was playing chess while everyone was figuring out checkers. Brennan threw for an absolutely ridiculous 559 yards and 5 touchdowns. And get this, he did that in one half. Touchdowns, I'm speaking. In a blink of an eye, Brennan had Arizona State scrambling like they were chasing shadows. This just wasn't about stats. This was about a statement. Hawaii wasn't some gimmick team in a tiny conference anymore. They were coming for you, and Brennan was leading the charge. By the time the clock hit 0, Hawaii pulled off the win, 41-24. And Brennan's performance was the talk of college football. But here's the twist. Despite dropping numbers that will make a video game character blush, this game didn't get the love it deserved. Everyone remembers Hawaii's undefeated season and Brennan's Heisman push, but for some reason this game, this insane performance in Arizona State, didn't quite hit the radar and didn't quite get the love it should have. And I get it. Some of those other Heisman-worthy performances were just flat out unforgettable. With this was the moment that set the tone for everything that came next for Brennan, and yet it barely gets a mention in the highlight reels. This game should have been a cornerstone of his legacy. It was the moment Colt Brennan went from future NFL hopeful to a living legend, but somehow it's not the one that people bring up when they talk about his career. Let's change that. Rest in peace to a childhood legend. None of these were for titles. No confetti, no one shining moment, but if you were watching, you remember. These weren't just good games. These were legacy moments hiding in plain sight. Performances that should have been framed, replayed, turned into folklore. Instead, they just got lost in the scroll. But not today. Today we brought them back into the spotlight, back into the convo. Because if you drop 700 passing yards or rush for 300 on the D1 defense, yeah, we gonna talk about it. Stay ready until the next one.